Hi, I'm Jordan Browne, and we kick off this week's show in northern Michigan, where I was able to spend some time walleye fishing through the ice on Hubbard Lake.
We're on Hubbard Lake today, chasing some walleye. We're off the deep water. We're off the drop off in the deep water, set up in around 50 to 60 feet of water, and a lot of walleyes, good eaters, ranging in 15 to probably 21-inch range. And we have been getting into some giant perch, up to 16 inches, and they get up to over 2 pounds. So we're hoping to get in a couple of those today too.
Hubbard Lake can often be overlooked as a quality fishing lake because, well, let's face it, it's pretty hard to get to. But this northern Michigan gem is home to some great fishing.
Today we're fishing Hubbard Lake. It's in northern Alcona County. It's 7 miles long, roughly 3 miles wide, about 9,000 acres. It's a really deep lake. Its average depth is probably around 40 feet. It has a really sharp break all the way around the lake. There's a drop off that goes about 15 foot down to about 40 all the way around the lake. So they got 3 big basins. You have East Bay, you have North Bay, and you have the south end. And people fish all over the lake, and there's incredible fishing for walleyes in many different locations. First one, it's always the best one.
Today the plan was to fish exclusively with tip-ups, a technique Steve has found to be the most efficient way to fish this large body of water.
Today's technique is primarily tip-ups. Jigging works, some people swear by it out here. I found out that I have better luck on tip-ups. We're fishing 50 to 6 feet of water. We're using emerald shiners. There's no gray shiners anywhere in the state of Michigan that I'm aware of. So emerald shiners work good. Everybody calls them the walleye minnows. We usually put them roughly 3 to 4 feet off bottom, and we're using a little treble hook. And sometimes I run a little bead on them too. But if you try and run tip-ups at the same time you're jigging, you gotta set the jigging rod down, run out to the tip-up, mess with the tip-up, maybe you'll catch a fish, maybe not. By the time you get back, it's been 10, 15 minutes, and you're not jigging that whole time. So we found out that tip-up fishing is your most productive method. And we bring out a warming shack, I call it. It's basically a deer blind. It's got 4 sides with windows on each side, and you just sit inside and wait for the flags to fly. That way you can put flags. We got some out probably 200 yards out to the side, just trying to locate the fish. Having a shack that you can take around to wherever the fish are at. It's permanently mounted on skis, so you can take it to wherever you're fishing and you can stay warm. Kids can come. It's great for families, great for big parties. Anybody that's cold can go warm up. Other people can still continue to fish. Works out very well.
Look what we got.
Steve had told me they were catching some very nice perch mixed in with the walleye, and he wasn't exaggerating. This perch was actually on the smaller side of some of the ones they had been catching, and was still a very nice perch.
13-ish, 13 and a half-ish around there.
Pretty good one.
It's not so much the length as it is the bellies on them. You can see that she's spitting out eggs, so I mean they're just huge females. Their egg sacs are just ginormous inside. It makes their bellies puff up. That's where they get that huge weight.
Well, the morning came and went with lots of flags, but only a couple of fish. We were constantly checking tip-ups, but very rarely was there a fish still on. It was a light bite to be sure, but after a little lull in the early afternoon, the action began to heat up again.
Well, today's right after a nice warm spell. We got a nice little cold snap last night. The barometer was falling all night. Let's keeping an eye on it. And today it was rising. It rose all morning, which the fish were biting, but they're biting real light. They're taking it out about 10 feet and dropping it, which is typical after a cold snap.
As the afternoon went on, the bite remained just steady enough to keep us busy. If we weren't dealing with a fish, the brutal weather conditions had us constantly checking tip-ups and reopening holes. This style of fishing requires constant work, especially on cold days.
Today with the wind, you got drifting snow, and it's pretty tough when they're light biting like this. You got to constantly go around, check your lines. If you're not getting no action, you get out there and check them, make sure they didn't kill the minnow, make sure the minnows are still lively, clean the holes out, make sure the tip-up's ready to go off. So there's a lot of maintenance on the colder days, and that's what's happening today. Finding out that a lot of fish coming up and just grabbing it, killing the minnow, and some of them just take it out a short ways and drop it. So when they're light biting, it's pretty tough. Normally they have it swallowed by the time you go out there. Very rarely see a dropped bait, so if they take, they usually have it. Today's kind of unusual. At least they're biting. There's those freshwater shrimp. See the freshwater shrimp? You look in the hole.
One unique thing about this fishery is the abundance of these so-called freshwater shrimp. Steve bases a lot of his fishing strategy around these shrimp, and it was evident that they are indeed a large part of the diet of the walleye here on Hubbard Lake.
In general, I do believe the fish are out here on this flat because of that freshwater shrimp. I believe that's their main forage in the winter. I've never found anything else in their stomachs other than the freshwater shrimp. And I do believe they're in these big basins down in the deep, 40 to 60 feet of water, feeding on those freshwater shrimp. In the past, these fish usually hang out in their normal locations on, sometimes they hang out on the structure. I find them, most of them have been out in the big flats. Later in the winter, they do naturally spawn in this lake. They do not stock this lake. These are all natural reproduction fish. They tend to congregate towards the river mouths in late ice. So we'll find them down in the southern end of the lake near March 15th.
Well, we ended the day with 6 keeper walleye and 1 really nice perch. Of course, this had been one of the slower days Steve had all year, but that's often the case when the cameras are rolling. Special thanks to Steve for having me out on the hard water for a good day of fishing here in northern Michigan.